All right, let's just jump right in. We're going to tackle the opening of Nietzsche's Thus Spoke Zarathustra, which I know can feel pretty dense. But here's the thing. Don't think of this as some dry philosophy lesson. It's actually a series of 22 short stories, these little parables, that all connect to tell one single, powerful story. And it's a story about a choice that every single one of us has to face.
You know that feeling, right? That low hum of unease, that little voice in the back of your head whispering, "What's the point?" The cynicism that can creep in and make all our big plans and ambitions feel kind of, well, pointless. If you've ever felt that, you're not just having a bad day. According to Nietzsche, it's not some personal failing. No, it means you're actually the battleground for a huge, timeless war of ideas.
And that's where our first story kicks off, what we can call the parable of the two spirits. See, there are two cosmic forces making a bet, for you. On one side, you've got the spirit of becoming. Think of it as this vibrant, creative energy that looks at your struggles and says, yes, more of that, this is how we grow. But on the other side, you have the spirit of contempt. That's the cynical, nihilistic voice, the one that scoffs at everything, sneering that all our efforts are just a joke. And yeah, they are literally waging a bet for the meaning of your life.
All right, so part one, the wager for your soul. This is where it all begins. We follow Zarathustra as he decides to leave his solitude, answer that call to action, and basically pick a side in this huge cosmic bet. This is what sets his whole journey into motion.
So this brings us to our second story, the parable of the heavy wisdom. Picture this. Zarathustra has been alone on a mountain for 10 years. 10 years. And his wisdom, it's become heavy, like a bee that's gathered so much honey it can't even fly anymore. He feels this deep internal need to go under, to descend. It's not about feeling like he should share it, like some kind of duty. It's that he's so full he's about to burst, he has to give it away.
And you see this exact idea play out beautifully in the parable of the sun's mirror. He literally looks up at the sun and has this epiphany. The sun just gives and gives, right? It pours out its light and heat on everyone, good and bad, without ever asking what's in it for me. And Zarathustra sees himself in that. He realizes his purpose isn't a choice, it's a nature. It's to be like the sun, to overflow with generosity.
Now, in the parable of the eagle and the serpent, we see he's not going down alone. He has these two companions, and they're super symbolic. He's got the eagle, which represents his pride, his ambition, his ability to soar above it all. And then he has the serpent, which is his wisdom, his cunning, his connection to the earth. And make no mistake, these aren't just his pets. They're his supernatural aid, the very tools he needs to survive the complicated, messy world he's about to enter. So his first test comes almost immediately. This is the parable of the forest saint. He runs into this old holy man in the woods, a saint, who says he loves God. And how does he love God? By completely turning his back on humanity. And right here, Zarathustra has to make a choice. Does he take that path of quiet, isolated spirituality, or does he engage with the world? He chooses humanity. He chooses the messy, difficult, challenging path of engaging with people over the quiet comfort of being a hermit. This is a huge fork in the road for him. Okay, moving into part two. A prophet meets the herd. So he's made his choice, he's coming down the mountain, and now what? Well, this is where the rubber meets the road. This is the idealist running headfirst into reality, and we get to see his big ideas smash up against the real world.
He finally arrives in this town, nicknamed the Motley Cow. You can just imagine it. This is the parable of the Motley Cow, and in the middle of the marketplace, he launches into his first big speech. This is the parable of the Overman's Herald. He starts preaching about the Übermensch, or the Overman, this idea that humanity isn't the end goal. We're something to be overcome, a bridge to a higher type of human. And what does the crowd do? They laugh. They just mock.
And that leads him to his most famous metaphor, from the parable of the rope in the abyss. He tells them, man is a rope, tied between beast and overman, a rope over an abyss. Just think about that for a second. The idea is so powerful. We're not some finished product. We're a transition. We're this dangerous, shaky rope stretched between what we were, our animal instincts, and what we could become. The crossing, the struggle on that rope, that's the whole point.
So how does the crowd respond to this incredible, dangerous vision? We see it in the parable of the last man. They completely reject it. They don't want danger. They don't want to be a rope over an abyss. They want the exact opposite. They ask for the last man, a creature who wants nothing but comfort and security, whose greatest ambition is to be warm and well-fed, a creature who, as Nietzsche puts it, just blinks in contented stupidity. And just like that, you can almost hear the spirit of contempt laughing, saying, "I told you so." And that rejection brings us to the absolute heart of this whole opening act. Part 3, the tragedy of the rope. All that philosophical talk about wagers and spirits, it's about to get very, very real. This is where the abstract ideas become a literal life and death drama right in the middle of the town square.
Okay, so let's walk through this tragedy step by step. It starts with the parable of the tightrope walkers striving. A man actually gets up on the rope. He's the living embodiment of Zarathustra's metaphor, taking that dangerous path. But then comes the parable of the buffoon's leap. A jester, this devil-like figure, jumps out and leaps right over him, throwing him off balance. This is the spirit of contempt in human form, cynicism and mediocrity literally tripping up greatness, which of course leads to the parable of the great fall. The walker loses his balance and plunges to the ground. And the worst part, the parable of the vanishing spectacle. The crowd saw what they came to see, a little drama, a little tragedy, and then they just get bored and walk away.
As the crowd leaves, Zarathustra rushes to the dying man's side, and this moment becomes the parable of the shadowless devil. What he says to this man is absolutely critical to understanding the whole book. He doesn't offer any comforting lies about heaven. He doesn't mention a devil or hell. He completely rejects all that. Instead, he looks this man in the eye and tells him his life had meaning right here, on earth, because he made danger his calling. His value wasn't in some reward to come. It was in the struggle itself.
And then, in the parable of the dead comrade, everyone is gone. It's just Zarathustra and the body. The herd has moved on, forgotten him already. But Zarathustra doesn't. He takes responsibility. He honors this man, this comrade in striving, by lifting the corpse onto his own shoulders. He is literally carrying the weight of this tragedy, this failure, with him.
But you know, it's in this moment of total failure that his real mission finally becomes clear. And that brings us to our final act. Part 4, the meaning of Earth. This is the resolution. This is where Zarathustra looks his failure right in the face and figures out what he's supposed to do next.
So as he's walking into the forest, carrying this body, he goes through the parable of the weight of failure. He feels it all. But then comes the big turning point, the parable of the atonement. Now, atonement here doesn't mean he feels guilty. It's more like a strategic epiphany, a moment of clarity. He realizes my whole approach was wrong. He can't speak to the herd. He can't be a savior for everyone. And that leads to his ultimate breakthrough, the parable of the fellow creators. He understands his real job is to find the others, the fellow creators, the inspired few. He's not here for the crowd. He's here for the artists, the thinkers, the strivers. And this new mission has a clear goal, which we see in the parable of the smashed tablets. He has to destroy the old rules, the old values that tell us to suffer now for a reward in some other life. And what does he replace them with? He replaces them with the parable of the terrifying beauty. It's this radical, fierce love for this life, right here, right now. The meaning of Earth isn't a promise for later. It's the terrifying, beautiful, difficult reality of what's right in front of us. And so the whole story circles right back around to you. Because this isn't really about some prophet on a mountain, is it? It's about those two spirits that are waging a bet inside your own head every single day. The spirit of contempt, that voice that scoffs at your ambition and tells you to just give up, and the spirit of becoming, the one that sees the beauty in your struggle, even when you fall. So the question is, which voice are you betting on today?
And that brings us to our final story, number 22, the parable of the new downgoing. Zarathustra sets out again, but this time is different. His mission is clearer, his resolve is like steel. As he says, his downgoing is not for God, but for the meaning of the earth. He's not seeking a reward in heaven, he's fighting for the profound, challenging, and beautiful value of life right here. And that really leaves us with just one final thought, doesn't it? What is the meaning of your journey?